Peace. It's your boy Gemini Brown here. So I've been looking over this chart, and y'all know how I do my readings. I talk to the chart, and the chart talks back. So we're gonna be doing this reading here for the soul singer D'Angelo, who recently passed away. And for me, looking at this chart with someone so iconic, it really does come alive. So I want to give you guys a peek into how my mind processes things, particularly when a person has done so much in the world. So I always think to myself, okay, I'm looking at D'Angelo, who is a person. He's a man and a human being, first and foremost. But sun sign wise, he's accomplished some things. He is known for having a particular type of identity. So you ask yourself, what is D'Angelo? Well, he's a singer, not just any type of singer, a soul singer. And it just so happened that he is considered the pioneer of a whole new musical genre that we call neo soul. So that within itself plays towards the Aquarius Sun Jupiter conjunction here. Now, when we get closer into it, we see that his sun is at 22 degrees. 22 degrees of any sign is what we call a master builder number. I look at it as the individual being open towards the genius of that sign. But it doesn't mean every person who has a planet at 22 degrees of a sign is going to manifest that genius. But there is something along those degrees that really enable the full potential of the sign to be accessed via the planet of expression. So with his sun being here in Aquarius, it did just that. It allowed him to innovate in which a field that others would therefore come along and be inspired by. So this is where the Jupiter aspect comes in. Because remember, Jupiter is a guru. Jupiter is our inner uh, coach, our inner astrologer and guide. So when a person has Sun conjunct Jupiter, the more they actualize their sun sign is the more wisdom that they're giving others to learn from. So another way in which we can say this is that most people who have Sun and Jupiter in conjunction are visionaries. But when you come into Aquarius, this gets amplified to the umpteenth degree. So what you see here in this conjunction is not only the reason why he is the flag bearer for neo soul, but also why he is respected as the innovator of that, not someone who copied another or took from other styles. No, he really kind of leveled into his own individuality and therefore gave birth to a new generation for others to follow. Okay. Interesting thing here too with Sun Jupiter, it really denotes a healthy layer of self-confidence. So I think when it came onto his music, I think this is where he was the most confident at, right? But at the same time, that 22 degrees, I believe, probably gave him a little bit of like perfectionism towards it. Hence why he would take his time before releasing things. But then when we look at the trine here from the sun and the moon, the part of fortune, this trine here between Aquarius and Libra, particularly Libra in the moon position, it really does well in increasing someone's artistic aesthetic, right? This is someone internally who feels artsy. And then when we add his Mercury in Pisces, that feeling gets even deepened. Okay. It's like, okay, I feel this way. Now, how do I process what I'm feeling? So between the Aquarius, the Pisces, and the Libra, this is a good makeup for someone to be any type of artist. The next thing I find interesting about this moon here in Libra, conjunct Uranus here in Libra, is that D'Angelo wasn't like a hugely like social guy, but he was friends with all of the musicians in which you think he would be friends with. The Princes, the Questloves. Like, I've noticed this with certain types of individuals with Libra energy. The universe is going to naturally attract you to the people who are on your wavelength or that can support what you do. Your ability to kind of like humble yourself and like work within the team dynamics is really just on you. But when you really look at it, this along with the sun and Jupiter, this gives respect, okay? And then this gives like real admiration from others. But it also shows that he also had admiration for the others he was working around. So this is why later in his career, he transitioned from being just D'Angelo, a solo artist, into D'Angelo in the vanguard, right? He was always meant to be a part of a band, not necessarily stand alone. And I think that's probably where he felt more comfortable, amongst his peers doing what he loves to do. Okay. So then another interesting thing that stood out to me is one hit through his solar chart, which we're looking at. Um, his Neptune happens to conjunct his midheaven. It just so happens this Neptune is at a fixed degree. And I believe that this really adds to the amplification of him as an idol, right? Being idolized for what he does. And then the Sagittarius influence really helps expand that energy when it's coming from living your own truth. So I feel like D'Angelo was always going to be successful as a musician. Sun and Jupiter is going to do that for you, right? It's going to bring you the success. It's going to help you expand. But to find your own truth, your own sound, that's through this influence, I believe here, of Neptune. And the more he resisted the urge to like be like others, the more not he was just idolized, but he was able to attract others that were in line with that particular truth. So I think it's a really strong influence here. And then his North Node was also in Sagittarius, going back to this being ruled by the sun in conjunction with Jupiter and the sun. Very much so shows he was meant to be a star. Now, get a little bit more interesting here. So I have wrote in my reflection that, I was 10 years old when D'Angelo was really blowing up. I remember being like 5 or 6 and Brown Sugar being out and really being attracted to the sound even when I was that young. But then I was like 10 or 11 and How Does It Feel came out. The infamous video that really branded him as a sex symbol. And I think like just like most of the world, I was like, oh, this is a ladies' man. Okay. But when we look at his chart, we see Venus retrograde. And the presence of Venus retrograde in anyone's chart is just going to show a deep introspection about Venus type things. It's not to say that all Venus retrogrades are not confident, but these are more than likely people who aren't constantly thinking about their beauty or their relationships. It's more of a personal thing. Like they have a personal standard or a personal satisfaction that they are trying to meet. Okay. Then we look at the fact that the public relationship that he was known for ended up being with Angie Stone, who's the mother of his son. But what's interesting is Angie Stone was 12 years older than D'Angelo. We look here, this is Saturn and Capricorn, Capricorn representing older people. We could surmise that that is what he was looking for, a certain type of maturity in a woman. Once again, going back to the Libra influence, I think this is someone who was fond of being around other like-minded individuals. So the fact that she was also a soul singer, a little bit older, more successful at the time than him when they met, I definitely think was a factor in building their relationship. So when we look at Venus here retrograde in Capricorn, trine Mars in Taurus. For anyone, this is going to give you some sex appeal. This is going to make you naturally sensual. So I always tell people, like, a person doesn't have to be conventionally physically attractive to be attractive. If you got something like Venus and Mars working in harmony in your chart, others are going to take note. There's just a grace of sensuality and attractiveness that you move with. Okay, so another strong position, I believe, is his Saturn here in Gemini at 28 degrees. If you didn't know, D'Angelo, just like Prince, played damn near every instrument. So the level of musical genius was rather high. And I believe the Saturn in Gemini just represents him being able to lock in on his craft, right? He grew up in the church, and I think that this showed like him doing what he loved early on. And then that natural trine just naturally opening up the doorways for him to step into his destiny and feel comfortable, with doing that. Last thing I would add is overall, we consider or look at D'Angelo as like a private person. This is someone who was out in the world, but wasn't necessarily of it. If you haven't gone through and like looked at his interviews and listened to his catalog, particularly the later stuff, this was a real artist. This was someone who was socially conscious and really wanted his art to reflect that and the things that he was going through. So I'll definitely look at D'Angelo in the proper way. I'll look at him in the sense of someone who was committed to his craft, someone who wasn't necessarily what you thought an artist would be like based on seeing them on TV and things like that. So I'm always conscious of that. And just to add a little bit more insight, I think Mercury here in Pisces is big. It really gives him an artistic mind. It squared that Neptune. So there's liable to have been some like insecurity around experimenting with a new sound or doing what is unconventional. But little aspects like this, y'all, is the difference between being a regular Aquarius and becoming an idolized iconoclast. Ultimately, what D'Angelo was. So I think, like I said, I don't think making music was ever like a thing for him where it's like, I want to be famous. I think it more so was like, I just kind of feel like I need to express the things that I'm feeling or downloading. So all in all, this is the astrology of like a true artist. And RIP to him. Thank you for your service. If you enjoyed this, drop a comment, drop a like. Let me know what you thought. What's your favorite D'Angelo song? All of that. If you'd like a reading from me, check out my website, GeminiBrown.com. Till next time, peace.
Peace to the gods. Brown sugar was sweet, voodoo ran hard. R.I.P. D'Angelo, what a vanguard. 51 years or so, seemed kinda fast, but the legacy you left, iconoclast. Found my smile again, cruising the D-low. That boy struck gold, put the soul in Neo. Written in my own words, smitten with the verbs. Hips swaying left to right, admiring the curves. I used to wish more like baby. Me and you together, forever be my lady. Drive me crazy, show me what it really does. I heard the Jones, just a feeling, is it really love? I'm still looking, cooking up more flows. On the run, J&B doing more shows. I asked Rumi, is it cool if I call him sir? He passed me the blue ivy, said he wouldn't curve. Life hard, times get vicious. Closer to God, getting over my missus. D-Mac, she got iPhone vision. A PC in my lap now, part of me wishes It was back how it used to be. Time never slacks, still tracking out a new with me. Spirit black, tracking fire. Power to the Panthers, long live the Messiah. R.I.P. D'Angelo. Nah, neither.